Hello, good evening, and welcome to Leadership Conversations with Kemi Ogunkoya. And today I have a very special guest. Her name is Mrs Ini Abimbola, and she's someone I absolutely respect so much. And it's such a great honor and privilege to have her here with us today. Mrs Ini Abimbola is a business leader with over 20 years working experience in the international development space with broad consulting experience. She is a management consultant and she's also a sustainability development expert. So, ma'am, thank you very much for joining us. It is such a great honor and privilege to have you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kemi. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, and I'm glad to do this with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. So I know there's a lot more to your awesomeness beyond, the things that I have mentioned in just about 20 seconds. So I'll let you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll take it up from there.
Okay. Where do I begin? I'm a businesswoman. I like to refer to myself as a businesswoman. I see myself more as a businesswoman and then, of course, a teacher because I'm also a lecturer. I lecture the MBA class on international CSR management, so international corporate social responsibility management at the University of Applied Sciences in Austria. So I see myself as a businesswoman and as a teacher, and I like to teach, as it were. Been in business for a couple of years, started my own business 10 years ago, which is a consulting firm. But before then, I lived outside Nigeria for quite a while. Lived in Addis Ababa for more than 10 years, working with international development agencies. Came back to Nigeria to set up a Nigeria office for Defense for Children International about maybe 14, 15 years ago. And then, got an offer to run WIMBIS, Women in Management and Business, for another 2 years, try and help them restructure and structure the organization, which I did. And then I left then to start up my business, which was Fisher Praxis Consulting 10 years ago. And yeah, so I do quite a bit. I mentor businesses, not just persons, but businesses, some middle level and large scale businesses. So I mentor their top management executive or their C-suite, as it were. I do quite a bit of business advisory as well, within and outside the country. I sit on a number of boards, both international and local, and a number of NGOs as well that that are causes that I'm very passionate about.
Wow, so that is such a phenomenal.
That would be a little.
I know. I know. Well, that is absolutely phenomenal, and I have interacted with you, and I also see how much you're invested in raising leaders, and that is raising leaders beyond this generation, really. And we know how the business things can be really, we pretty much live in what we call a VUCA world now, and I say that the requirements for leadership keeps changing, by the day, pretty much. So being in that space of sustainability, which you are an expert in that space, what would you say is, or what would you say are some of the most important, qualities or characteristics that business leaders have to adopt at this time to ensure that their businesses are more sustainable?
I have this conversation with a lot of business leaders, and so particularly when COVID struck, And I mean, when COVID struck, a lot of us were like, look, we're going to be out for a couple of weeks. We'll let this fly, and then, back to business. And by the second month and getting to the third month, I think a lot of business leaders knew that this was serious. Bottom lines were beginning to be hit. There was no revenue for most businesses. Incomes practically slowed and then cut off. And then, so a number of businesses that I see as advisory consultants or as an advisor, I had a couple of meetings with the board and, of course, the top management. And it was very clear. I mean, I'm a straightforward, no nonsense businesswoman. I mean, I deal with realities as much as the basic qualities of a leader are there. But when it comes to this, I like being very practical, because it is either you swim or you sink, and it comes with the business decisions that you take. So the first conversation I had with them was first to look at the numbers, and then we looked at the reality of the situation. And of course, my advice was to begin to have the conversations with their staff, because it was very clear that certain decisions had to be taken that had to do with the overheads and the operational costs of businesses. Because if you're not making money, so let's say we started January, most businesses were open till maybe late February, most of March, most of April, and most of May, most businesses were out. So if you've been out for 3 months and you're paying salaries where there's no income, then there's a problem, because it's going to affect your bottom line. So you're going to go into your reservoir at some point. So I started to have that conversation around, look, you need to begin to have those clear up conversations with your staff. And the conversation has to revolve around either reduce or... So you either reduce your staff or your overheads, or you cut the salaries, or or you totally I mean, the conversations had to be had, those hard conversations. So in a VUCA world, as we've seen, I mean, very volatile, and it's changing in such a way that it is almost as if, we don't know what next is going to happen. We've seen the economy go down practically in shambles. We've seen some sectors of the economy will take them a long time to get back on their feet. Take the airlines, for instance. I was reading a report today about even the airspace opening in Nigeria for the local flight. They've had to, so the numbers are not as they used to be. People are not flying as much. So they still have to reduce the fares to be able to accommodate people. So some of the qualities that I think that any leader in this times have to clearly defined. So beyond just the leadership, so as a leader, you must have, yes, diverse background, which encompasses a broad spectrum of experience. And so that breadth of experience is valuable, but there must be some level of specialization in the work that you do. And that's what makes you an expert in the particular fields that you play. I would say another quality would be the ability to envision. The ability to envision what the next season will be, if you will. I like to also think about business as in seasons. So you also need to be able to envision what that season will be like, or what the next season will be like, the next season of your business. And it's particularly it's important, particularly when you look at what COVID has done to us. COVID has ensured that businesses. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
I hear you clearly.
I noticed the camera wasn't moving, so I was concerned.
Okay.
So I talk about the ability to envision, and then also the ability to lead change. So these two things are together, because then you look at, so taking COVID again, COVID has really proven quite a number of of theorems wrong, if you will, and has also put a lot of theories to test, as it were. So not just to envision. So you need to say, okay, so what do we do? I see so many people having post-COVID conversations and webinars and all of that. None of us has lived through COVID before now. So whatever conversations we are having about post-COVID is just us trying to assume and to predict and to envision what the next levels and lives of our businesses is going to be. So so again, like I said, the ability to envision, the ability to lead change, and then of course it's very critical that you also have a business acumen. When you have clear business acumen, that's one of the things that is also going to help how your business will grow, if you will. So I will just leave it at that.
Well, thank you very much. I think those are timeless principles, and I always love your no-nonsense approach to business. That you always keep it real, and talking about real strategies that people can start to adopt. So to my next question. On the 17th of June 2020, your organization Thistle Practice was 10, and something remarkable happened. I saw a broadcast that you did where you announced that you were stepping down as CEO. And of a truth, it was pretty much a shocker to me. Well, for quite a couple of reasons, right? In as much as we have businesses that operate on the global scene, our businesses are resident here in Africa, and it's not really something you get to see, that a CEO who is hale and hearty, is stepping down as CEO. It's really because I have worked with organizations where the CEO is obviously past the age of core productivity, for a lack of a better word to use, still wants to hold on to running the business. What exactly was that about? And when you step down as the CEO, what exactly were the thoughts that you had, and what assurances did you have about stepping down?
Okay, so since the 17th, I have had to talk about this, let me not exaggerate, more than 20-25 times. So many people so many people calling and say, is everything okay? Are you ill? Is there something we need to know? Type of thing. Are you sure that everything is fine? Or did somebody buy over the company? Did the board push you out? All of that. And I'm like, wow. I think from the very beginning. So one of the things that I'm grateful for is that as a person, I am, and I think that it's also one of the things that when I teach and when I talk about leadership, I talk about clarity of vision. I talk about clarity of vision and learning agility. And this is very critical for every leader. And particularly for those of us that are founders of businesses, of enterprises, if you will. So the clarity of vision from day one, it's what helps you to situate how the business that you are founding or starting or growing, or where you find yourself to be. So even if you're not the founder of the business, a clarity of vision as a person in a leadership position is very critical for you to be able to groom successors and for you to be able to take that organization to a particular level. So for me, from day one, when I started practice, I was very clear in my mind the kind of business that I wanted. That shook a lot of people at the beginning was when in shareholders into the business. So I have 55% shareholders, and I brought shareholders who took some shares in the business. And then that's fine. That's some in the board charter that we had. So we put up a charter and a memorandum of understanding for the board. Was one of the things that I said was, I mean, to put a limit on my my financial spread as the CEO. I think that was the first thing that shocked a lot of people, even the directors, was to see that as the CEO, I could not sign anything more than 10 million naira at any given point in time. Anything beyond that had to go to the board for approval. And everybody was like, okay, is why you are the owner of the business, you should be able to do as you like. And I said, no, that I am creating a business that is not about me. Theatre practice or TPC should not be about me. And I was very clear from the very beginning. So that was one of the first things. So I think for a number of people that had worked with me from the very beginning, it wasn't all of a surprise to them when I decided that, you know what, after 10 years of running a business, I sincerely believe in the clarity of my mind, in the clarity of my vision, that there is nothing so wonderful that I know. In as a learning person, consistently and constantly learning, I sincerely believe that someone else can bring a fresh perspective. I sincerely believe that another CEO will have some bright ideas around how the business should run. I sincerely believe that another CEO will have some innovation around how we've done business over a period of time. So from day one, it was very clear in my mind. In fact, my plan was to step down in year 7. And it was something that I shared with the board, that after 7 years, and I thought, 7 years, perfect number, if I've grown this business. And remember, this is a service business. It is not a tangible product or service business that we offer. It's intangible. So it is very difficult to sell. What we sell is what I like to call a lot of English. We sell strategy. We sell change management. So it is difficult to sell. I say to my students that you have to convince a CEO of a business to pay you 20 million naira for you to create a strategy. Now, this strategy is an abstract. It's not tangible. You can't touch it. You're just hoping that this strategy is going to create some change that is going to have a return on investment in terms of naira and kobo. So it's a difficult sell. So for me, in my mind, if I'm able to run this business profitably for 7 years, then I would have done well. So, but in the 7th year, it was just not possible for me to step down. So I had to do another 3 years. And I think those are the things that really drove that decision, that after 10 years, I don't know what bright ideas you're going to have. I mean, at your age, really, as youthful as my mind may be, as innovative as I am, as consistently learning, a learning person, or a learner, as you will, if you will. I wasn't sure that there was anything else that I was bringing to the table that was totally out of this world. So I thought that stepping down and stepping back and allowing someone else to run. So I stepped down as CEO and sit on the board and still create the direction and the push that the organization needs, but also having someone else run the business.
Wow, that is absolutely phenomenal, and it's not so much of a surprise to me that people would call you to just know if everything is okay, really, because it's not something that we see a lot of here. So even on the national level or the national scene, you see heads of states, who want to still hold on to power, and it's pretty much the idea of leading in perpetuity here. So my question from that is that how do we change this mindset of leadership in perpetuity? Is it that people are really afraid of letting go of the power, or is it that they haven't grown people enough to succeed them, or is it just that they are afraid? I don't know, really. I know it could be a combination of quite a couple of things, but then how do we change this perspective of leadership in perpetuity,
I
in
think it's the
businesses and in
fear.
nations?
I think it's fear. I think it's fear of the unknown. And don't get me wrong. It's even as so. It's let's take ourselves as mothers. Um, and not all mothers are like that. So some are not that, you know, emotionally attached. But I think it's so I see it as as the ownership dilemma. I like the ownership dilemma. And it's that in itself is a course that we take when we talk about sustainability of businesses and organizations. The ownership dilemma is a big issue. So there's always this thing that it's mine. It's more like a possession. I started this thing. I had the vision. I understand why I started this thing. And I only me. I am the only person that knows how to drive this thing because I had the vision. I am the one that had the vision. Now my what I say to people like that is have not been able to sell that vision to someone else, because it is only when you're able to sell that vision to someone else that you can readily be able to step back. So the fear of ownership, the ownership dilemma, the fear of losing out, the fear of the fact that someone else will not be able to see what you saw. But the issue is that whatever you saw 20 years ago when you started the business is not what is right now. Whatever your vision was, because your vision for a business that will outlive you has to be dynamic. It has to consistently change. It has to be something that is evolving every single day. It's changing, and that's what makes it valuable. That's what makes it sustainable. Sustainability is not about how long, but how well. And quality and value, the consistent provision of value is what sustainability is all about. Sustainability is not about how long. So let's take the Coca-Colas of this world that are 100 years and above. Coca-Cola has evolved. So yes, the taste, the uniqueness of Coca-Cola is the same, but Coca-Cola has had to go through a lot of changes. Coca-Cola has had to go through the changes of their bottles. Coca-Cola has had to go through the changes of their content in terms of being dynamic about what each continent wants. So if you drink Coca-Cola in North America, it is slightly lighter and less sweet than what you have in Africa. In Africa, the content is a bit more, it has a fuller taste, which makes it a bit more addictive. So that's the innovation. Coca-Cola had to go through innovation of moving from bottles to plastic PET bottles to cans, to they've moved from just having a single flavor to having Coke Zero, to having, so the dynamism about business is that you can't have the same vision you had when you started. The uniqueness and the ability of the business to is the fact that that business is allowed to take on changes as the world changes. So it is difficult. It is difficult for a lot of people to accept that someone else can run with the vision that they have, and I think that that's always the problem, why they want to be there in perpetuity. Now, for nations, it is more of greed and nothing else. It is more of greed and the immunity that comes with. Trust me, that in the place of leadership, you can get away with a lot of things, and then the beauty of having people running and falling beyond the big picture, that truly want to remain in perpetuity. There's really nothing wonderful about your mind. can't run a really.
Okay, Auntie. Thank you. I think we have you back now.
Oh, it went off?
Yes, it did for a few seconds.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, yeah. So that's really phenomenal. Really, just looking at it from the business perspective and also
But
from the national perspective
are you
too.
seeing me, or you can just hear
Yes,
my
I
voice?
see you. I see you clearly.
Okay,
I see
okay.
you clearly.
Because my camera,
Yes, ma'am.
the view from here is not moving.
Okay. Oh, okay. But I see you clearly.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So I think you have really driven it down, and I love how you were point blank on the fact that when it has to do with national levels, is nothing short of greed, really. And I absolutely agree with absolutely agree with that. Now you've been on a phenomenal journey, way over 20 years experience, rich experience, if I you know, way over 20 years of rich experience all around in life, really. And as a leader in all spheres of life, I would like you to share with us what your most important lesson, what your most important leadership lesson has been through this journey. I know there are a lot of them, but some of the ones that really stand out for you, that have shaped you to be this person that you are, this leader that you are, who is able to also produce other leaders. Because I know that I think it's John Maxwell that says this, that it's not about, when it comes to leadership, it's not about creating more followers, it is about producing more leaders, right? So what would you say are some of those key lessons that have shaped you and have transformed you through this journey of leadership?
Okay, I think that, I mean, the qualities of a leader. Someone asked me, are leaders born or they're made? And I always like to say that they're made in the ring, they're made in the fire. Um, because it's okay to say, look, I'm a leader, I hold a leadership position in my office, I'm the team lead, I'm the whatever. I mean, it's easy. Um, but leadership that is successful, a successful leadership, is made through the fire. So it's an experience building thing, and it also has to do with who you are as a person. So some of the lessons I've learned will be that the best of leaders are empathetic leaders. You have to be empathetic. You have to be that person that loves people and wants to see people grow. Empathy is what will make people gravitate towards you and want to work with you. I say to a lot of people that I had people that stayed with me from the very beginning of theatre practice and are still in theatre practice 10 years after. And that's not because they don't have where else to go, but it's also like, look, we have a very collegial and very family type kind of business. But even with my no nonsense, no BS kind of leadership, but I think that empathy as a leader is what will keep people with you. And then, of course, a leader that is another thing that I say that I've learned would be that you don't know everything. You don't know everything as a leader. You can be the one who gives the directions, the one who guides the processes, but you don't know everything. So the ability to have an open mind, the mind, the constant mind of learning. I say to leaders, when I talk to leaders, have you heard what the janitor has to say about this? I'm like, the janitor, he doesn't understand the fight. I said, but have you asked them? If it's been in this company, they sometimes have more information, street information that you don't have. And we see this a lot in leadership, even in national leadership. So some leaders are totally cut off from the realities. And whether you like it or not, there's a level that you get to that you're cut off from reality. You don't know what is happening on the streets. And when I mean streets, I mean the streets of your company, the streets of your business. You truly don't know. So you need to be open to learning. So not just learning the book learning, but also learning what is happening around you. So that's also another lesson that I have learned. Another thing that I've also learned is that You must have the ability to delegate. Delegation is tough. So if you are somebody like me that is that pays attention to details, um, I have a problem. I call it a problem, but it's actually so going through it. One of my professors said it is actually very few human beings that have that. I have what is called low latent inhibition. Now, low latent inhibition means that my mind absorbs stimuli that is, it's practically like a sponge. So when you speak to me and we're having a conversation, I have gotten to the end of that conversation before we even start, because my mind breaks down that information in bits and millions of pieces. I look at it in different perspectives. I see the perspective that you won't see. I understand it in different ways. But I have also learned that in that is the tendency for me not to allow people to express themselves. So because of that, sometimes in the early stages of my leadership journey, it was difficult to delegate and not micromanage. So you find a lot of people that pay attention to details tend to micromanage, because you are like, look, you're not going to get this thing right. You're not going to do it the way I want to do it. So I used to have a problem. I write with a green pen. And so when my team members or my staff do documents, and by the time I start reading the documents, you don't see the documents. All you see is green pen, green pen, green pen. So the impression it gives to people is that they don't know what they are doing. So what happens is that people will now fall back and say, okay, let me just do it, because she will still do what she wants to do, type of thing. So I had to learn.
True.
I could actually, instead of using my green pen, sit them down and said, you know what? I've read through. I think there are a lot of grammatical errors. I think there are sentence syntaxes that are not right. I think that this is the mind that I want us to communicate to this client. This is the direction that I want this document to go, and let them go and do it. So you delegate, you get them to learn to do it well, even if they have to do it over and over again. It helps them to learn. So that's one of the things that I learned, that it is easy to, as much as it's good to pay attention to details, it's also easy to micromanage, and that's a problem. So you need to learn how to do that better. Yeah, quite a number of other lessons, but I think I'll just leave this to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. That's really profound, because on the journey to becoming a better leader, a lot of times people are looking at leadership from the lens of other people, right? So they're looking at it as it has to concern those that they are leading, and those that they have on their team. And I always say that leadership begins with self, which means that you have to keep improving. You need to know what your own shortcomings are as a leader. You need to be aware of your strengths. You have to be aware of your weaknesses, or your growth areas. You need to know what your traits, you need to know what your triggers are. You need to know what your interests are. You need to know what your blind spots are, which only comes to you through feedback. So I think it's really amazing that, as leaders, we're also building ourselves. We see ourselves as a work in progress, so which means that leadership truly doesn't have, the leadership itself is a continuum. Okay, so I have a book that I'm launching next month, and it's called The Leadership Guardian. And one of the key points in that book that I talk about extensively is that leadership itself is a continuum, which means that it never has an end. It's progressive in nature, which means that you learn one thing, the requirement for unlocking the next level means that you have to learn more. You have to invest, in knowledge. You have to invest in skills. You have to invest in, new behavior, really, pretty much learning from others, sharing, and being in that state where you're flexible. So it's really great insights that you have shared with us today. Timeless principles, and just listening to your experiences and the things that you do and how you do it really spurs other people in that leadership space to keep doing more, spurs me particularly to also keep being more, and viewing leadership from a different and total perspective. Now, ma'am, we have learned quite a lot from you, and before we let you go, there are quite a couple of things we also want to know, right? And one of those is one of your favorite leadership quotes. I know you have so many quotes. I see you write a lot. You are a great content creator. So I'd like you to share one of your favorite leadership quotes. It could be from you, or it could be one that you just love.
Quotes. Quotes. I don't do quotes a lot. I like to read them, and maybe take the lessons that I require from there. But one particularly, and I can't remember who said it, but it's from one of the books that I hold very dear to my heart, and it's called The Art of War by Sun Tzu. I say to people that my leadership journey, and one of the things that has helped me as a leader has been lessons from the art of war. And so if you are able to read that book, then there's something that it says, and there are quite a number of them. But there's one particular one that it talks about, and I'm just going to paraphrase. I can't remember exactly, except I look for it and send it to you. But it talks about being prepared. It talks about being prepared for the battle. Be prepared, for the battle never announces itself. And what that says to me is that as you grow in the leadership journey, you must have a wide range of understanding. You cannot be boxed up in your knowledge. So people find it very intriguing when a conversation comes up on any topic at all. I always have something to say, and something, well, thankfully, something sensible to say. And they're like, oh, wow, are you in that field or not? And I'm like, no, I'm not in that field. But the first thing is that I'm a businesswoman, and I never say no to my clients. So my clients can decide to come up with some highfalutin ideas that I have no idea about, and I say to them, you know what, I have the basic understanding of what you're talking about. Give me a few days and I'm going to come up with something. So for me, that quote always reminds me to say, you need to be prepared. The battle does not announce itself. So when you talk about battle, I don't mean the ones that we do on social media. I will fight you. I will show you. No, that's not what we are talking about. The real battle never announces itself. It creeps on you. But are you prepared? So for a business leader, the opportunities sometimes never announce themselves. But are you prepared? I say to young people that in my leadership journey, I've had to learn how to pick up phone calls at 3 a.m. and it's a business call, or it's my boss saying to me, I'm sorry to disturb your sleep, but I need you to have this in mind that as soon as you wake up, A, B, C, and D needs to be delivered. Now, some of the things I read on social media these days is that, you have to have a life balance. I mean, what do they call that thing? Work-life balance. I don't believe in work-life balance because I don't know what work-life balance is. I think that it's one of the ways to build laziness into a human being. Oh no, I don't believe in it because I sincerely believe that, and when I speak to women leaders, I get very passionate about this because I think that when we talk about the reasons why we have less and less women leaders in the C-suite, it is simply because we like to embrace all of these buzzwords that actually have no meaning. Work-life balance. What does work-life balance mean? Work-life integration is what you should be talking about because we integrate our lives. So before having this call with you, which I in my mind scheduled as a work schedule, I was in the kitchen, trying to cook up dinner. And then I had a timer on my phone that said, look, you need to go upstairs and change and, just get ready. So I came outside and I'm like, oh God, it's going to take me like 5-7 minutes to put makeup on. I said, you know what? She's going to like my face without makeup. So being able to integrate our lives is what we should be looking at. Because when we begin to seek work-life balance, there are going to be times when we are going to have to drop the ball. And then by the time we come back to that career, the career has moved on. I was reading somewhere where someone said one of our clients was saying to her, by the time she came back from maternity leave, the company had moved on. And she's like, she felt so bad that it's not as if she died. She only went to have a child. But darling, when you were on maternity leave, what happened? Your phones were dead. You keep in touch. You stay on top of issues. You understand what the business is doing at any given point in time. You make sure that you have your pulse on whatever it is that is going on. So for me, that quote is consistently in my mind. Be prepared. The battle never announces itself. And that goes for opportunities. That goes for our preparedness in terms of our intellectual being. That goes for preparedness in terms of being able to pick up opportunities and run with it. That goes for the ability to be able to talk on any subject matter that is presented to you. This is what men do. And as young or middle-aged or senior female leaders, if you look at successful business leaders that are women, they have not tried to be like men. They've only known how to use their femininity to work for them. And for me, I always say to my mentees and to my proteges that if you want to be successful, then you must be battle ready at any given point in time.
That is deep. But knowing you, I know you don't drop it any other way, but straight to the point and deep. So because before the interview, I went online and just pretty much did some research, and then I saw that interview you had with the Punch newspaper where you said you do not believe in anything like work-life balance because it doesn't exist. And
that interview created a lot of problems. I had women fighting. They were shaking all over the place. Like, what do you mean? Yeah. I had to explain it. And I think a lot of them came to the realization because what you currently do is not work-life balance. Work-life balance means that when you're home, you don't do anything that has to relate to your work. And that's what happens when a lot of women go on maternity leave or take time off work. And by the time they come back, they wonder why they can't fit into the organization anymore. So because you think that, when you're home, it should be, 50% home. And when I'm at work, no. We already integrate. So I say to women, and I break it down to things as simple as, you are in the office and you call your nanny. It's already 3 o'clock or it's 2 o'clock. This child is going to come back from school. Make sure their lunch is ready. Remember to give them a bath before their lesson, blah, blah, blah. And then you say, oh, and remember to bring out the stew or the tomatoes. So when I get back, I can make jollof rice and something. You have just done integration. You are integrating your personal life into your workspace. You are calling the woman that buys you meat. Mama Sarah, make sure you deliver the meat today. And when you get home, make sure that you tell my God to give them to put in the freezer. That's integration. You are calling in. So then we never used to have Zoom meetings, so you couldn't even Zoom into your PTA, but you could take your lunch time and then drive for the PTA meeting and come back to work. That's integration, and that's what it ought to be. So you integrate it, so you are not stressed about, oh, when I'm home, I need to be 100% with my children. No. You're already integrating it, and you just find that window of being able to ensure that you have time for your family, and all of that. But completely wanting to go to, close out work or close out the family, it doesn't exist. And I think that that's the mistake that a lot of us make.
Absolutely. The whole balance fiasco is a big illusion, really, because when you try to actively actively seek that balance, you just find out that it really never happens. It doesn't even happen.
Never. And then
so until
you get so stressed, and then you see that's where a lot of women feel guilty. So you find a lot of women say, I want to stop work. I had a staff that had a baby, a little baby, and she had another son. And after a while, she couldn't get a good nanny. And she's like, she wants to stop work. Now, this is a lady that I had said, you know what, you can bring the children to the office. We'll keep them where the office assistant is, and the office assistant, after doing the work, just really stays with the children and practically was like our office nanny. We created a space for the children, but in her mind, she was not being a good mother. She was failing. So she decided she was going to stop work. And I tried everything. I said to her, okay, can I call some of my friends to get you a nanny? Because for me, what was ringing in my head was, you are young, you are at the beginning of your career. Don't do this to your career. But they don't see it. A lot of women don't see it, and it comes from this idea of I'm not balancing, so I need to do that work-life balance. The guilt. I'm not there for my children. Oh, my children are growing. I need to be there for them. I've raised young adults, and I walked all through, and I worked in a bank. And I think that, with what I see now, I think I raised very ethical, balanced, and kind children. So, and that's what we want: children that understand ethics, that are good people, and can be global citizens. That's what we want. So I think that is a conversation that we need to have. I enjoy having those conversations with women around the ability to think very critically around what they're doing with themselves, because we are finding a lot of women very frustrated. You go and start a business, what you were trying to run away from is still what you end up with, and then at the end of the day, you're still very unhappy. You find them wanting to blame the husband, to say, oh, I left my job because of the children, as if the man asked you to leave your job. I'm sorry, I can be that blunt. No, you chose to leave your job because it could have been managed any other way. You have to be able to create that environment for yourself. Take as much help as you can, and pay for the help if you have to pay for that help, to give yourself some level of sanity and growth in your career, because you also have to find what fulfills you. So if staying with your children gives you the fulfillment, please, all well and good, because where we all find fulfillment is different.
True. Thank you very much for sharing that. I'm sure our listeners are taking notes, and like we always do on this show, it's about having this kind of conversations that actually inspire, that catalyze and help to transform the minds of adults, the minds of leaders, and pretty much help us shape our minds and help people become better people. Now, in all of your very busy schedule, how do you unwind? How do you find how do you find that time to unwind, and what do you do to unwind?
Unwind. I'm a homebody. I'm your typical couch potato. A lot of people don't always believe I'm the person that can be at home for Monday to Sunday and not see my front door and not feel like I'm missing anything. I stay in my house sometimes 4 days and I don't go down the stairs. I'm just upstairs here. So that's how I unwind. I have suffered insomnia, and that comes from the mind that never shuts down. My mind never shuts down. I had to learn to manage it so that it didn't become a health issue. But I struggled with it a couple of years ago. So I've learned how to calm the mind down a bit, so that I can sleep. So I wind down by sleeping. Or by watching cartoon with my little boss. I have a 4-year-old, or I color. So I do a lot of adult coloring, and the adult coloring I have found to be one of the most amazing things that has happened in my life in the past 10 years. So I started my youngest daughter before this 4-year-old who is 24. Actually, she's a counselor in Canada,
Okay.
and she recommended that adult coloring. So I get this adult coloring books, and so you always see me with my small wallet that has my coloring book and my color pencils and my bag of tea. So I'm a tea addict. I collect tea and I love tea. I collect all sorts of tea. So that's my own way of distressing, and and just totally. So now I'm like a retiree, if you know what I mean. So so I'm trying to enjoy that, but then it's not as if I'm not doing anything. I mean, it's even busier for me now because my students are all online. I have to mark papers. I have to read through all sorts of essays and work, and I still do my business advisory here and there. So just trying to really, if you know what I mean, just take it easy one day.
It is absolutely necessary. It's absolutely necessary. And thank you for coming on the show today. Thank you for sharing from the depth of your insights with us. There's been so much of learning, there's been so much of experiences that you have shared. And I absolutely do not take it for granted that you are with us on this show. And it's always our practice on this show to ask you a riddle before you go, and I have your riddle ready for you.
Please don't let me fail.
Okay. I will try. Okay. So the riddle is this. What fruit is always sad? What fruit is always sad?
Wow. At this point, I need Miriam here.
Sad, yes.
Pineapple?
No.
Oh, God. Any hints?
Okay. It starts with a color.
Blackberry.
No, you're very close. Another color.
Blueberry.
Blueberry, yeah.
Really? Oh my God. Really? I have to go look at this.
You have to look that up.
Every morning. So I've never
every
seen
morning.
Really sad?
So the taste.
Oh yes. Okay, so it's always like okay.
Yeah,
okay, because
so it's always
love blueberries. So I have
Blueberries.
cereal. I'm trying to cut out my sugar.
Okay.
So it really helps to regulate I sweet. My husband and I, we have terrible sweet tooth. Um, so I use it in place of honey or anything else. And yes, it has a
Okay.
slight sour taste, but wow, I'm going to look at it. I thought maybe it
Look
looked
that up.
fine.
All right.
But really
Okay.
interesting. Thank you. I learned something. I learned something
You
today.
know,
Thank you.
we learned a
Thank
lot from you.
you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for coming
Thank
on
you
the
for having
show.
me.
We look
Thank
forward
you
to
for
having
having
you soon again. And cheers to all your grand and numerous endeavors.
me.
We wish you the very best, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.